Steampunk. A subgenre of science fiction where technology, fashion, culture, architecture and art of the future is romantically envisioned from a Victorian-era perspective, hence steam-powered technology. Most notably inspired by H.G. Wells and Jules Verne, science fiction authors of the 19th century.
Hi, Rob Day from New England Woodturning and Sculptures. This is my latest steampunk creation, my grandfather clock, and I thought I'd just run through it. This is what happens when you go into lockdown and your brain starts racing away. Okay, so I wanted to make a grandfather clock, and I wanted it to look as if it was steam driven, and of course your ideas get carried away as you're doing it. So we actually have a working clock in it, which is just what they refer to as a fit up, which is just a clock that fits in. So this is actually our time now for the gallery, and we decided to put a thermometer as well in. And then we'll start from the top. These are some sort of a drive shaft. I'm not exactly certain what they are. They're off old cars that was gifted to me. So it makes a nice little finial like on your traditional woodworking clock. And I've also used old spark plugs as finials as well. So it just sets it off nicely. And then here we've got a muffler off a little old tractor that come off a property. A guy was happy enough to, or I should say good enough to give it to me. We've put a pressure gauge on it just to look good. Now for all those people that want to complain and carry on about my welding, I am no welder. I will say that right from the start. My theory with welding is quantity, not quality. I am not a professional welder, nor am I an engineer of any form. So if things don't fit and things don't match up, it's just for the looks. It's not to look perfect. And with having pretty ordinary sort of welding, it just adds to the age and the fact that it's steampunk and just sort of slapped together. So here, this is just a 4-way valve for your hose system for your garden. So pretty straightforward. We've got a pressure gauge off an old compressor. Now these bits here are actually out of my old shower that we pulled out. We've just recently done our bathroom. So these were the two hot and cold that leaded up to the outlets. So I've used those, creates a nice little bit of interest. Down the side here, we've just got a piece, I'm not sure what that is. Then we've got the head off a motor, and this is a part of a compressor for your the water trap, and then just all the little bits and pieces. This I believe is off an old tractor, and we just put taps on it and things like that just to create a bit of interest. So for our weights to drive the clock, we've just used old pistons. The pendulum is just an old motorbike sprocket. So you've got to be creative and think of different ideas and things of how to use particular things to look like the real thing. Now, people say, oh, why did you put a gear shift in here? This is for daylight savings. This is important. We've got to change time. So there's your daylight savings swap over. We've just got a nice big dial here. I believe that's off a motorbike, that one. I got some nice big sprockets and chain. Now this is all off agricultural machinery, that one of the agricultural machinery places in town were kind enough to let me dig through their pile of bits and pieces. And then down here we've just got all sorts of different things just to make it look more interesting. And then if we come around this side, starting from the top again, we've got the finials. And then I like to put a piece of quite a bit of brass in, or copper. It's just a nice contrast. And then just look for weird things. I mean, that only just pokes in there, but it looks like it does the job. We've got a head off a old mower with the spark plug in it, and that obviously looks like it's feeding it. Again, some nice big thick chain and sprockets and all sorts of bits and pieces. This is just an old handle off some sort of a gas tap of some form. We still haven't quite figured out what we're going to do with this yet, so I'm just going to leave that hanging. That is the top to that water trap piece that I showed you the other side, so I try and use all the stuff I can. Just a valve, a normal water valve with a bit of pipe. Just creates that little bit of interest. Just an old tap that's screwed into there. Again, some pieces off that old compressor with the pressure gauge. And then I had a friend that had a big old piece of woodwork machinery, a big spindle moulder, and this is the switch that was on it. So that just looks interesting, adds to it. And the reason that I like doing the metal sculpture is the fact that you can do this. Nothing has to be precise and nothing accurate. I don't measure anything. I do it all freehand. I don't try and do anything neatly. Even when I'm using my plasma cutter, I like to have that nice crappy cut, which adds to the look of the fact that it's sort of a steampunk project. Remembering that nothing has to be precise and neat. And that's what adds to the attraction of steampunk. So this is the one side of the business that I like doing, because it's very, how can you put it? You can be much more creative and inventive, whereas my woodwork side of the business, which we'll show you in a minute, everything has to be precision and precise. So this is my steampunk clock, which is open slather. Make it as however elaborate and rough as you want, which adds to it. Now we'll show you a wooden geared clock, which I made 20 odd years ago, which is in the gallery still running. So this is the other side. This is the precision side of the business. Okay, so this is the other side of the business. This is the precision side. I made this over 20 years ago. I actually used a pattern out of a English woodwork magazine for the actual movement. I then made the rest of it to suit it. I used to teach carving and turning, so I incorporated some of the barley sugar twisting and the ball and claw feet. So when I started making the clock, for all the wearing parts in it, with your actual ply for the gears, it's not necessarily the timber that you're using that creates the strength for not wearing. It's actually using very thin veneers, gluing them together with 2-part epoxy resin. So it's actually that very hard boat building glue, the epoxy resin, that gives you the strength and it doesn't wear. Now in 20 odd years, the only thing that has worn on it are these little striker pallets. And you can see every second they're getting a thump and then pushing that away, and that eventually rounds that over to the point where it's worn. So those 2 little striker pallets either side are the only thing that I've changed in this clock in 20 odd years. And they're just 1/2 inch round dowel that you shape as your strikers. And in 22 years, I've only ever changed those once. So not bad. It certainly creates some interest, and maybe we can take a photo afterwards and I'll show you a close-up of the cogs, and you'll see just how many very thin veneers are glued together. Now, I had to make all those. In Australia, I couldn't get the ply that I wanted, plus it hasn't got that two-part epoxy resin for durability. So I made those myself. I made a press, and I actually got some very, very thin veneers and glued them with two-part epoxy resin in a press. So that was quite a process in itself, and an interesting process. And we'll take a close-up photo and show you that in a minute. So basically the whole clock runs purely on weight. So it's the weight of the wooden weight pulling down on it. Now that's not a wooden weight, that's hollow, and it's full of shotgun shell shot. If I take that off, the clock stops straight away because there's nothing pulling on it. If I put that weight back onto it, straight away it starts ticking again. So it's pulling down on it like so. This weight is very little weight in that. That's just a wooden weight, and we just have that hanging there just to stop all the leads, all the ropes from getting tangled and keeping it all taut. Now this runs for 24 hours, so that means every night I've got to reset it. That has to return. Once that hits the floor, the clock stops. You can put a multiple pulley system, but I haven't found that necessary at this point. Keeps accurate time, and that's your second hand ticking away there, obviously. So the main timbers that we've used in it are those thin marine ply species that we glued together to make that very thin veneers for the gears. The frame itself is Mackay cedar. I've never lubricated it, not once. I've never ever lubricated that at all. One of the issues you have if you lubricate, it can pick up dust and then get sticky. So it's been fine. I haven't had an issue with it. And all this is obviously red cedar. The weights are camphor laurel, and the dial for the pendulum is blackwood, Victorian blackwood. So it presents and makes quite a nice clock. As I say, it's been ticking away for 20 odd years. So this is the other side compared to what we just showed you. This is the precision, which I also like, as well as the free-for-all, whatever goes steampunk. So these are both on display at our gallery at New England Wood Turning and Sculptures. We're located 29 Ponds Road. We also have some nice landscaped area that we have lots of sculptures, and we also have the gallery that's full of all sorts of woodwork products for sale, as well as our didgeridoos. So come on out, have a look, and come and see them for yourself. Hi, Rob from New England Wood Turning and Sculptures. We just want to show you where we're located, and we are located right here.